All right. Welcome back to another Corporate Underground. We have Stephen joining us again, and for some reason they've
Hey,
left
guys.
me in charge of the topic, and I've decided to go full tin hat and say that I want to talk about. We've got a security expert here. I work in the digital marketing space. I want to talk about all the conspiracy theories to do with, I guess digital. And the one thing everyone always tells me is Facebook or Google, they're listening to me because I was talking about blah blah product, and then 20 minutes later, an hour later, I see it. And while I do enjoy and believe in a good conspiracy theory here and there, my genuine argument is Google as a private company or public company, I guess you could say, a company, couldn't get away with genuinely listening in without our permission conversations, because if they did, they're screwed completely. Where where a government organization can get away with this sort of crap. So I always say, chances are, if you're important, the government's listening to you. But Google has no interest in wondering whether you're talking about ice cream scoops, and now you saw a picture of an ice cream scoop, so they're listening. Stephen, what's your angle in all this chaos?
I was going to say, I think there's another intersect there as well, Tony, that even if they were listening, are they really interested in what you're doing with your ice cream scoops?
Yeah.
I mean,
if they can sell more ice cream, right?
Yeah,
they sell that out.
How profitable is ice cream if you can do that just for ice cream?
Ask Ben and Jerry. They should have got a couple of big mansions rolling. So
Yeah.
I open up a big market and people talking about Ben and Jerry's, and all of a sudden you know where to put a store. But hey, look, what do I know? I'm not the expert.
I mean, I guess let's start with a confession. I have smart home listening devices in my house here. So I have the I can't say her name because she'll go off, but
she'll light up.
Miss
I knew a girl like that once.
But do I think that she listens? Of course she does, because she has to wait for a keyword, and then the question is, what does she do with that after that point, and at what point does she actually submit that information off, and then what happens with it, and really does anybody really care? Of course, I've got absolutely no confidence that when I press the little button on the top of it that makes the LED go red, that it's actually turned the microphone. When I press that button, does it actually cut the cable? I don't think so. And I think this is where we get down the whole, the government, what I call the Snowden syndrome, of, can people be listening in? Can they access those devices? Absolutely, of course they can. So what have you got to hide, or what are you worried about?
Yeah, on a serious note, you do work on some high-profile cybersecurity things. Do you? I mean, I guess you don't talk about much work at home, I guess, in these topics. You're not saying, the Prime Minister's password is this out loud or something like that. But I do see very, when you I got to go to Facebook, right? And they've got, and Google, and they've got full on nothing with a camera is allowed in certain rooms. Nothing with a microphone is allowed in certain rooms, because I guess they're working on stuff that people with the talent could try and access these listening devices, hack people's phones and that sort of stuff. So, that it is, like I said, possible.
Of course it is. Yeah. And actually, just on that, I mean, the government agencies, of course, follow the same. I never forget, years ago, we're sort of going off on a tangent here, but I went to a meeting with a very large government agency down in Canberra to do with national security. And I went to that meeting, and everybody had to literally check in all their devices into a locker before you then go into another room, which is completely smashed of all digital signals. And then you eventually get to the room where you have your meeting, and by the time you get into that room, you're sort of operating on a chalkboard and an abacus, because that's the only thing you're allowed left to work with. And then you go back out and do everything. But what was amazing, so we go through that whole process, and it's like security charades, right? By the time you get to where you're going to go, and you're completely stripped down, and then you go back out and you get all your tech again. And and then you walk out of the agency, and the first thing you do is you get your phone and you call an Uber and you jump in an Uber. And I swear I had an Uber driver pick me up from that place who was definitely a foreign national from another country, and he was just literally preying on knowing the fact that people were going to meetings in that particular agency in that building, so he'll be able to pick up some great conversation in the car from the colleagues. So
as you call someone else, said, "Yeah, I just got in there. I was in this meeting, and blah blah blah." And he's listening.
We found out all about the blah blah project, about the blah blah. And
totally.
Everyone's going to die in 6 days.
I was in the car with a US colleague, and literally we got in and said nothing, and then somebody else kept trying to talk about the meeting, so we shut that down. And then as soon as we got out at the destination we were going to, it was like, right, okay, I think we better ring the department we just were and tell them kind of who's hanging around. It was there was no doubt about it. So whether it's a smart device or a human device, these things happen.
Yeah,
I always look at all those TV shows, and there's all this technology and all these amazing things that happen as they quickly find that, let's just get, we just found this this murderer, and we've tracked that he went through this green light 2 hours ago, blah blah blah. Governments aren't that bloody good. They're useless.
Isn't it good how quickly they can get that CCTV footage?
Yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I'll tell you what though, they're actually, so you guys know I used to work at IBM, and they actually do have some pretty amazing capability. They bought another company, I can't remember the name of it, but they're literally then able to ingest all of that video content and things like that, and then feed it through the IBM Watson engine. And literally say, I'm interested in someone who is wearing a green shirt, drinking coffee, and it just goes and literally pulls all that information together.
I also think with all this,
but there's a process to go through to get to there.
Yeah. I also think with all this technology, though, this technology is so complex, is that it's making us, and this applies to a lot of things, include anti-vaxxers. We have a little bit of surface knowledge, and we have a pseudo understanding of something, and then we take these massive leaps, and it makes us effectively idiots. We think we kind of know everything, and we know virtually nothing because we've scanned a couple of blogs and we've read a little bit. And they always say, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. You would work in incredibly complex environments with $1 million budgets and all these other things, and even then it takes all that to come out with a card that a driving license someone might be able to replicate within 3 weeks. So I do think that a lot of this technology, we take this leap, and it ties into the tin hat sort of thing, where we read a little bit and then we think we understand it, and we make these huge assumptions.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And then there's also a whole bunch of technology that we didn't think about well enough. I guess we'll just sort of go on the record here right now and say it'll be interesting to see how the digital passports for vaccinations goes in terms of, how that gets rolled out, and, how, shall we say, feature-proof it's going to be.
Yeah, there's an Italian scientist that's been pushing back a little bit on the vaccine thing, because he was on a TV show and they had a celebrity, and they had someone else who knew nothing about vaccines, and he spent 30 years working in there, and he just tore him a shred and said, he started calling him idiots. So I said, well, what do you mean idiot? He said, I define someone as an idiot. He says, not an insult. It's a diagnosis I offer for free. Right? So you've got someone with 30 years experience that, lives and breathes this thing. And then you have a celebrity coming and going, my opinion, this is what I believe, and it's as valid as yours because, they're semi-famous. There's that element, as I said, of people that don't know anything or know enough to sprout an opinion, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I always find it amazing when you watch the news and there'll be a story on about, the security of this particular product or this particular outcome. And I'll pick on the vaccine certificates again because it's topical for the moment. But, there's a security expert on the TV telling us all how it should be. I'd never heard of the guy. I didn't know the company they worked for. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the expert. I'm not, not dismissing what they said, but are they the expert in it? Don't think so.
Yeah, but this is also one of those things where a lot of the stuff is so brand new. I mean, you go and look at Bitcoin, or you look at you can be an expert by doing it for 12 months, based on a whole bunch of information that runs through. But that doesn't mean that anything else before that. You don't see a lot of finance guys coming in and go, well, look, I'm an expert in Bitcoin, but that would be a transition of information that would carry across. Where are these coming from, and how much information do they know about a very little bit, and how it's not connected to a whole bunch of other circles that's going to have an effect? And it's like the cane toad effect, where you bring something in. We've got a bug. We're going to bring a cane toad. It's going to eat it. We've got a virus. We're bringing a card that everybody can scan. But then all these knock-on effects start to happen because it's fixing a problem right here and now, which isn't really a problem. Won't be a problem in 6 months, but it's a problem that needs to be sorted to stop a whole bunch of panic. And panic drives a lot of poor decisions, including security issues, where somebody automatically goes and does something that they normally wouldn't do. And your example of somebody leaving and just get into a cab and start talking. If you're not aware of what's going on, if you're not built up into security and looking at all the different areas of that, and it would have come from a driver's license, it would have come from the health, each one of those has made you more aware than the next, where it connects.
Just on that, so 18 months ago, nobody really knew what QR codes were, right? Well, certainly not to the extent that they do now. And now everyone's an expert in QR codes. I don't know if it's happened down in the southern states, but up here in Queensland, we had an incident where somebody was literally printing. So they looked exactly like the official government ones with all the colours and everything, but the QR code redirected you off to a rather undesirable website. So you had a bunch of people going to Woolworths and clicking on their phone, click. Woo!
There's a bunch of cheap traffic.
and all of a sudden, all the elderly are just lined up. They've all got the call. They're all rolled up.
Yeah.
And
then there's also somebody else who I worked with, who I heard had a selection of photographs on her phone of all of the different QR codes that she'd been taking. So she'd been taking the photos of all the QR codes and wondering what she needed to do with them next. Who does she submit them to?
Oh my God.
Hey, don't pick on my mum. Don't pick on my mum. It's an honest mistake.
Yeah.
So I think the lesson there is don't always assume that everybody knows what to do with the technology.
Yeah, and like my argument. So I was just going.
Sorry, I was going to say, but
go ahead, Matt.
You go.
Go.
Thanks,
go.
So, but you've got elderly that are becoming out of line with what's happening. You've got a whole bunch of people that don't pick it up. I mean, it used to be that I could program a VHS and my dad was blown away. Now, there's a progression where they're actually being left behind. Once money becomes obsolete, or so that you're talking about, and we go through these points, there's so many areas, like there's a whole bunch of rural areas that won't have banks, and they're saying, well, you can just do it on your mobile phone. But my mum couldn't do that. She's got Alzheimer's. There's no way that she'd be able to connect any of these dots to be able to do that. So she's been further left behind. But it's not just Alzheimer's. There's a lot of different areas that might not have the internet or issues that are just becoming. So the poor won't have access to this. The elderly won't have access to this.
That's right. We're creating a digital divide.
Yeah. So how is that going to affect moving forward, and what sort of things can we actually do to bring that back into line, or is it just too late? Is the genie's out of the bottle?
I think the genie is out of the bottle in a lot of these regards. I mean, those regimes are now in place, and they're becoming part of our continued everyday life. And the example you make about the phone. So my parents don't actually have a smartphone; they have an old mobile phone, and so now for them to go and access, the supermarket becomes a laborious process where they have to go through a manual check-in and everything like that. And they're completely vaccinated and all those things. So I think for a while now we're just going to have to live with it. And this is not going to be in place forever, but it's certainly going to be around for a good 6 to 12 plus months. We're not certainly going to go back to how we were before. So the applicability of how all these technology choices get selected, it's great for the majority of people, but there's still it's creating an inequity for a lot of people to access, services and life to keep moving, I think.
So you won't necessarily be financially poor, you will be digitally poor.
Yeah.
But this is like they've already done that. I mean, Victoria, we went through 3 or 4. It's hard to keep track of life at the moment, but lockdowns that were just like, okay, tonight lockdown 8 p.m. and if you're a young person on social media and you've got notifications and stuff like that, you're like, oh wow, we're going to lockdown, But for everyone else, like that isn't like.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, you shouldn't be hunting that information. It should be like in the old days, it would have been a real build-up. Yeah, I just think it's a bit of a joke that we are forcing people to be following on these pieces of tech. And that I don't know what the plans are for that passport, but they're going to try and do a digital thing, which is once again going to force everyone onto a piece of tech that they may not have the ability to have.
Well, let's put it this way. We're just going to have the same problem we had for many, many years. We couldn't get a single train line gauge to go up the east coast of Australia. You had to change from state to state.
Yeah.
So, we've already got different check-in apps. Are they interoperable? No. Only the fact that they all use a camera. So we're just creating a digital rail gauge. That's all we're doing now.
Yeah, but this is my point. Everybody says the government's listening. I can't see how they are. I've called the Victorian driver's license, and you're on it for 40 minutes. They're not listening. They don't want to get through. They don't want to hear me. Come on, I just don't see that happening at all. So,
So Matt doesn't think they're listening. Matt, do you keep your webcam going or like
Of course.
Yeah. All right, Steve, you're in security. Do you ever cover your webcam or turn off your mic?
I do have a little Snowden slide that goes over the top of the webcam to physically cover it. Yeah. Although in saying that, I don't have one on my monitor, and it does freak me out when I walk past it every time. But it's only connected. And do I believe they're listening? Yes.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I can't ask that question in case I might incriminate myself.
Do I believe they're listening? Yes. Do I care? No.
No. Well, it's again. It's a risk analysis exercise, right?
Yeah.
Tony, so you think they're listening?
Me?
Mm.
Oh, definitely.
It was your question.
It's my question, but definitely, like, not to me right now. There's nothing interesting, but like I tell you what, if I ever cause enough kerfuffle, then I believe I'd be someone that would want to be listened to.
Just a quick question to end this. But why is Alexa and Siri both women's names? Why don't they have a man's name? I mean, like, is there a reason for that? Because
I think Siri's non-binary, isn't it? Isn't Siri non-binary?
That was their goal. Yeah.
But the voice is female, isn't it?
No, you can change it. You can change it. You can get a
default.
Is female. Yeah.
I
don't know. That's the cyber. That's because in science, if you think about in part like all the movies, like the robot AI was always a chick that was not wearing much for some reason.
Because it was written by a man. Yeah.
Yeah, but is that because 90% of IT people are male?
Exactly.
It's a female
that's my
voice.
point.
Oh, we've manufactured this, have we? Yeah. Okay.
Maybe
we just solved it. We solved it there. It's who's in IT.
All right, so for all your conspiracy theories, I hope you've enjoyed the show and Stephen's managed to debunk a few or just reconfirm your beliefs.
I was going to say, I think
reconfirm your beliefs.
Yeah.
In which case we offer the idiot diagnosis for free.
Whichever side. Yeah. All right, thanks very much, guys.
Well, that's all right. Thanks, Stephen.